Good evening, everyone. Can we all hear me? Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, yes, good evening. Welcome to class. Thank you all for
Good
joining in.
evening.
Welcome to our very first session um for intellectual property third and fourth quarter of 2025, week one, the Jiipcc mentorship and internship program. Welcome. I can see we have a few people who have already joined in. Thank you so much for coming. We'll be starting off, we will not be wasting any time, and we'll be starting off with class as soon as possible. Right. My name is Dennis Williams, and I will be moderating today's session. We have quite a lot in store for all of you today. So please kindly sit back and enjoy class and session. Please make sure that you are writing and you are listening to everything that will be said and taught in today's session. So not to waste any time, we'll be introducing the mentors we are supposed to have in the session today. Our first mentor that we're supposed to have in class today is Miss Regina Obiecheni. Sorry if I didn't pronounce the name very well, Miss Regina. Miss Regina is a senior associate and legal and senior associate and an integral member of the Aluko and Oebode IP units. As an IP practitioner for over 10 years, she represents both local and international clients in a range of IP-related transactions such as trademark, patents, industrial design, copyrights, and related services. She is a member of the Continental International Trademark Association, the Anti-Counterfeiting Collaboration Nigeria, Intellectual Property Law Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Bar Association, and as a result of her work and contribution to knowledge, she has been recognized by Managing IP as a rising IP star for many years, and also recognized as an outstanding IP leader in the Elite WIPR Leaders Guide 2021 to 2024. Regina was named a trailblazer by the World Intellectual Property Review, that is the WIPR, 2019 to 2022, and shortlisted for 40 under 40 Rising Stars by the Esquire Nigeria Legal Award in 2019. From 2019 to 2020, Regina is an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators and a member of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators. Regina is a regular speaker at workshops and events, and also a notable writer who publishes many peer-reviewed articles. Thank you so much, Ms. Regina, for volunteering to be a mentor in today's class. We look forward to hearing from you. Our second mentor we're expecting in today's class is Ms. Navana Talk. Ms. Navana Talk is a entrepreneurial intellectual property rights and affairs executive offering 26 years of legal firm and in-house corporate experience combined, instrumental in mitigating risk, building organizational capacity, um, driving optimization, driving optimization and securing multinational dollar deals, experience in partnering partnering closely with C-level executive and on a wide range of legal compliance, operational finance, employment, and strategic business matters, expertise in licensing, acquiring, and enforcing intellectual property rights related to platforms, leverage business acumen and legal expertise to drive growth while resolving complex issues within high energy and fast-paced environments, represented clients in the commercial litigation, transaction, and intellectual property matters across a wide range of industries in the Gulf nations. Thank you so much, Ms. Navana, for opting to be a mentor in today's session. We look forward to also hearing from your vast experience and knowledge. Sorry, our next mentor, our next mentor for today that we are expecting in today's class is Mr. Folarin Aluko. Mr. Folarin Aluko is a legal practitioner and partner in the firm of Truman Rockwood Solicitors, where he provides advisory and consultancy service to companies and a wide range of creators users, and startups. Folarin is a director of the Intellectual Property Institute Nigeria. He is the chairman board of trustees of the Intellectual Property Law Association Nigeria. Folarin is a member board of trustees and Sports Lawyer Association of Nigeria, as well as a member of the board of Nigerian Digital Chambers of Commerce. Mr. Aluko is also a board member of the Songwriters Association of Nigeria with a background in ICT, hardware, and digital forensics. Polarin has led legal teams in champion consequential strategic impact public interest litigation in the IP space since 2012. Polarin is a consulting mediator with um, intermediates commercial intermediate and ADR firm based in Lagos and Abuja. He's a thought leader in the Nigerian innovation, technology, intellectual property, and entertainment space. We are happy to always have Mr. Folarin joining for session. He always does well to share very thought-provoking knowledge within the IP space. And we also look forward to hearing from him sharing those same thought-provoking insights into this session. Still yet in class, we have quite a lineup for today's session. Still yet in class, we have or we are expecting to have Mr. Sand Umbakalu. Mr. Sand Umbakalu is an international development expert with over 15 years of experience in implementing projects related to geographical indication, that is GIs, and international trade and investments, trade policy, research policy reforms, market access, monitoring and evaluation, capacity building, market linkages, and value chain. He served as the lead technical consultant, for the Africa Intellectual Property and Innovation AFRIP project, which is funded by the European Union and the European Union Intellectual Property Office. SAN played a crucial role in assisting the Nigerian government in establishing. Can we all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my
Yes.
network got disconnected. Just give me a moment. Sorry, 1 minute. I'll be with us shortly. Okay. Sorry. Um, Still on Mr. Sand Mbakalu, right? He played a crucial role in assisting the Nigerian government in establishing a robust framework for the protection and promotion of geographic indication, organizing committee for the All African Intellectual Property Summit, and has led several other development projects in Nigeria and across Africa. Currently, Sand is the executive director of the African International Trade and Commerce Research and is pursuing a PhD at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. It is always nice to hear from Mr. Sand when he's on call. He's a very detailed thought leader within the IP space, and we look forward to hearing from him. Last but not least, of the mentors that we're expecting in today's session is Mr. Max Ikombe. Mr. Max, sorry, let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, Mr. Max Ikombe. Mr. Max Ikombe is the founder slash principal of Ever Law Associates. He works extensively in the field of arbitration, ICT slash technology law, and intellectual property. Max is a facilitator on the annual information Technology and the Law course of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies since 2016. He has trained in advanced intellectual property law courses at the World Intellectual Property Organization Academy, and he is an accredited agent of the Nigerian Trademark and Patent Registry and has conducted IP registration for businesses there since IP registration business there since 2010. Thank you so much, Mr. Max. I can see Mr. Max is already on the call. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. We are happy to have you in today's session. So the way the progression of today's class is going to go is that we would have our mentors give us a small 20 minutes overview into the topic for today. We'll give them the opportunity to go one after the other. After they are done with their overview, we would have presentation from both groups that were assigned the task of making presentation and presenting in class. We have presentations from group 1 and group 2, if I'm not mistaken. Please, presentation time is 10 minutes, and we expect you to stick to time so that we can be able to manage the time that we have for today's class. And then after that, we'll be taking feedback from the mentors. They'll be giving feedback to the presentations that were made, and also they will be answering questions before we call it a day. So not to waste any further time, like I said, we have Mr. Max here with us already. Mr. Max, I would like to give you the floor for a 20 minutes introduction into the topic for today. You're welcome, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Dennis. I must apologize. I did not expect to be the one to give the lead presentation from the mentors side this evening, so I do not have prepared slides, and I'll definitely not take all of the 20 minutes you have given me. I'll try to just stick to some high-level introductory thoughts, and then, of course, I believe the other mentors will do a good job of giving a more incisive analysis of some of the issues, and more importantly, I look forward to the mentees' presentation and then the engagements and discussions we would have after that. So let me begin, of course, by thanking the Jiipcc for having me back again on another cohort of the Jiipcc mentorship program. I must commend the consistency over the years. I must thank Dennis, who is always there. I'll also thank Sophie, who does a great job of reminding, sending the emails, and just following up. I truly appreciate the privilege of being called to this program. And let me also commend all the mentees who have joined the session this evening. I see we have quite a large class this time around, over 75 people on this call. I want to just let each and every one of you who has joined this program know that you are truly in the right place. I've had the privilege of being on Jiipcc for quite a while now, and I can assure you that the value you'd get from a place like Jiipcc would definitely set you apart in your professional career. Intellectual property before now was an area that we have not, particularly in this part of the world, have had as much interest as we ought to have. And the impact of that is essentially that our businesses are, as it were, running on one leg alone, because every business has two types of assets they are running on. They are the tangible assets, that's the physical stock they have, the equipment, the machinery, the physical property, factories, and all of that they have to produce. But the second and actually more important, to an extent, asset that a business has to operate is actually the intellectual assets, which is what intellectual property is all about. So when you have an economy like what we have in this part of the world, where businesses are to a large extent oblivious, not even, some of them completely unaware of the intellectual assets they have and how to harness them, then you know that our economy is in the shape it is essentially because we are neglecting what would have been a huge boost to our economy. So part of what the challenge to each and every one of you, the mentees who is on this call, is to gain this knowledge and to immediately see how to filter this knowledge down to your present clients, potential clients, and even to your own personal businesses as you grow in your career. So I'll just say a few things before I begin to make a tie-in between IP and business. Of course, by now, I would want to suspect that each and every one of us on this call already knows the distinction between intellectual property and tangible property. So as we all know, we all have different tangible properties. You are all joining this webinar, as it were, using one tangible property or the other, essentially a laptop or a phone. That physical device is a property you own, but it's a tangible physical property you can hold in your hand, you can lock up or carry in your bag or lock up in your office to protect it from being stolen. But on the other side of the divide, we recognize that there are certain things we own, but we cannot call them a thing because, in a sense, they are not immediately tangible or physical that we can hold on to. But yet they have value, because what you must understand about property is that property of any definition, the base criteria or indices that makes a property really is the fact that it gives you certain benefits that you can enjoy. And when a property belongs to you, essentially means that you have the exclusive right to enjoy the benefits that come from that property, or any other person whom you give the permission to can also enjoy the benefits. So if you own a phone, you have the exclusive right to use your phone to make phone calls, to connect to your social media, to send messages on WhatsApp and all of that. But if another person wants to use your phone, then you need to give the person permission to use your phone. So that is, the real incidence of calling something property. The fact that that thing has use and that a person, and when we say a person, of course, we mean a natural person like you and I, or sometimes it could be a corporation. So like Jiipcc, for instance, if Jiipcc is registered as a limited company, it can also own a laptop, it can own a vehicle, it can own other physical assets that it has the authority to use or to permit other people to use. So you can see that on the other side of the equation, like I mentioned earlier, we also have other kinds of property, but that are not tangible. They are not things you can hold with your hand, but they are things from which you generate and derive value. And that if someone else takes and begins to enjoy that value without your permission, you will feel cheated. So one simple example is that currently on this call, we are all joining this call via Zoom. So Zoom, of course, is a company. Now, Zoom has a lot of physical assets. They have server rooms. They have, of course, company vehicles. They have office blocks. They would have laptops, supercomputers, and all kinds of physical assets. But Zoom has also intangible assets that are important, or even likely in the case of Zoom, more important than their physical asset. So the word Zoom, ZOOM, for instance, if I'm not Zoom and I set up my own video conferencing app, and I'm not that company, but I choose to now name it Zoom, it would mean, for instance, that Jiipcc is trying to organize a class and they just go online to log into their Zoom account and they suddenly see another app also called Zoom, and they're thinking, oh, this Zoom looks different. Whereas the old Zoom we know is blue, this is looking purple. It looks like it's a new model of Zoom. So you can see that they have not taken any supercomputer from Zoom's office. They have not taken any physical thing from Zoom. But by taking the name Zoom, which is not a tangible thing, you can see that they have used the goodwill, because people know Zoom as an efficient and effective video conferencing app. So by taking that name alone, they have taken benefit from a property that belongs to Zoom. But you can see that unlike the phone, the laptop, the vehicle, the name Zoom is not something tangible. You can't hold it, but you can see that there's value that is derived from it. So that's just to give a broad background of the difference between intellectual property and tangible property, and to show you how businesses that do not understand how to leverage, protect, and make the most of their intellectual property are actually losing sometimes a greater percentage of their value than they are just by simply protecting. I mean, they take out fire insurance for their property, they recruit, they engage security guards to do round-the-clock surveillance in their offices. They want to ensure nobody steals a phone and all of that. But imagine if they do not protect their name and anybody can simply take their name and use it. You can see that what they would be losing in that scenario is a lot more than simply losing their physical assets. So, of course, most of us here would know the Coca-Cola company in Nigeria. As we all know before now, the company that had the right to produce Coca-Cola products, Coca-Cola Fanta, and all the other brand of products under the Coca-Cola company was a company called Nigerian Bottling Company. So you can see that at the time, Nigerian Bottling Company was a company that owned a lot of factories, a lot of physical assets, trucks to distribute soft drinks all over the country. But you can see that if you came to value that company, what was most valuable in that company was not those physical trucks, not the physical factory, and all the other land, tangible property they had. What was most valuable to them was the right to put the word Coca-Cola or Fanta on a bottle of soft drink. So it means that if anybody else won the right to do that, then overnight, that company with all the physical assets they have would, struggle to gain value. But anybody who takes that name immediately can use that name to make a lot of money. So I hope you, all of this, I'm just trying to show you how, a business that does not pay attention to protecting its intellectual or intangible assets is losing so much. So I'll begin to wrap up at this point. Like I said, when we get to the interactive session, I'm sure we'll discuss a lot more in depth. Dennis, I hope I've not overshot my time. My aim was to make sure I don't take more than 15 minutes. Am I still good for time, Dennis?
Yes, sir, you're still good for time.
Okay, thank you. So I'll wrap up in 2 minutes. So bottom line, what we need to understand is that intellectual property is crucial to any business. And intellectual property comes in at the level of business on many fronts. Number one, it comes in at the level of protecting, sources of, the company's sources of income. So the example I gave about Zoom, for instance, of course, Jiipcc has to pay a subscription fee to Zoom to use the platform for this program. So if I was able to spoof the Zoom app and I took that money from Jiipcc instead and I used my platform thinking they were using Zoom, you can see that Zoom has lost money to Jiipcc. Now, that is just the first layer. That protection and loss of revenue is just the first layer. Now, the second and more dangerous layer that would happen to Zoom is that by the time we're all on this Zoom call, we all enjoy the interface. Everything is moving smoothly. I can speak. You can hear me clearly. The interface looks good. Dennis is sharing the screen. You can see, my picture there. Everything's working really well and it's pleasant. So imagine if I spoofed Zoom and my app, of course, being that I'm a counterfeiter, my app will not be at the same level with Zoom. There are all kinds of trouble. The display will not work properly. The people cannot hear properly. A person is struggling to join, he can't join, and all of that. So you can see that apart from Zoom losing money, which was the first layer, the second layer is that Zoom is also losing goodwill because what is happening is that because I've produced a lower quality product, the impression anybody who comes to this meeting would live with is that, oh, Zoom used to be good, but they are still dropping quality. I attended the Zoom session last night and it was so poor. I won't use Zoom anymore. I'll look for another app. So you can see that Zoom lost money first. Secondly, they have now lost reputation or goodwill. So you can see that's the second layer where IP comes in. Now, but even a higher layer is that the IP itself actually can also become a source of income. So, there are things where we talk about licensing, for instance, where you have IP. Sometimes you are not exactly using the IP or you want to, use your IP in a new market. So we all know, for instance, the fast food chains like McDonald's and all that. If McDonald's wants to start up an outlet in Nigeria, they are not likely to want to leave the US, come here to battle with all the regulatory environment and all of that to set up. They'd rather just give someone what we call a franchise, essentially kind of a license bundled up with other IP rights to give the person the authority, because without that license, if the person came to Nigeria and opened an eatery and called it McDonald's, they'll have a right to sue him for infringement of their intellectual property, but they can give him a license and say, fine, we do not have, the technical, the local know-how to operate in the Nigerian market. So you be our partner in Nigeria. We give you the license to operate with our name in Nigeria. So you can say that becomes also an income stream as well for the company. So with all of this, I've said I'm just trying to help you see how IP is so integral to business. How without IP, any business that is running without a proper knowledge and understanding of intellectual property, protecting and deploying and managing their intellectual property assets would actually be losing a lot of value. So thanks everyone again. It's a pleasure to have had this time with you. Of course, I look forward to your presentations and to the interactions afterwards. Thanks so much. Dennis, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Max. Thank you so much, Mr. Max, for a very detailed and wonderful presentation into just describing, some very, very key components and very practical components of intellectual property in business and how it plays a huge role in companies maximizing their profits, and their efforts within the lines of business, like I said. So we'll be having our next mentors. We have a few mentors who are yet to join the call, but we'll be having our next mentor who is here, our very own Miss Navana Talk. She's with us on this call. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining. We're excited to have you in today's session. Please, Mark, in also 20 minutes, we would also want to hear from you. Give us your own little discourse and introduction into the topic for today, IP for business. You are very, very much welcome, Ma. Mrs. Navana. Hello, Ma. Can you hear us? Or can you hear me rather?
Oh, yes. Hello. Nice to meet you all. Did you hear me?
Yes, Ma. Good
Hello?
evening.
Hello.
Hello, Ma. We can hear you. Hear you.
You hear me? Okay. Hi, nice to meet you. And I'm so pleasure to join you today in this webinar that we are waiting from a long time ago. First thing, I'd like to thank all the students who present this presentation, which is very interesting in the IP business and the relation between the business and the intellectual property as a whole. Because I think this is one of the main purpose that we should give more attention in the field of intellectual property and innovation. Why? Because it should have, we should benefit from the intellectual property in many ways. We should benefit also from our trademark. If we have a trademark, if we have patents, copyright, industrial design, GI, especially in Africa, and Africa is more famous. I think the more famous continent of GI and appellations names, and traditional knowledge also, folklore and traditional knowledge and traditional culture, which is very rich in this than other continent. So all of this should have benefit which return, like ROI, return investment on countries, on African countries as a whole. And we should make more efforts and support from government also in this IP business. How to benefit from this intellectual property assets, these intangible assets, which with more plan and IP strategy, with good and deep strong IP strategy that we should apply as it is by experts, it will have a good investment and return to people, to African people as a whole, and countries. The point that we should have first the awareness of IP as a people, as a normal people, citizens, Second thing, that experts have a big and very important role here to educate young people and maybe adults that needs to know more about the important and the benefits that we return back to them if they protect their assets or their intangible assets, the intellectual property assets. The experts here in the intellectual property field have an important role. Whatever is technical, examiners, professional, legal people, legal expert, all of these people should have like round meeting, round table, conference. It depends. Whatever, they should have several meetings in order to put a good IP strategy for this country. For example, it will be by steps, going and aligning with the other IP educator and IP professional people who give the technical and legal also awareness to the citizens, the people, the students, the researchers, all of this. So I think that the IP business is very, very important topic that we maybe have another discussion other day in this, because it's a big, it's long and deep also topic that we should have support to put it in the right track for each country in Africa, depending on the regulations, the procedures, the legal laws. If these procedures or legal laws or jurisdictions should be updated depending on the AI, because the AI have a big influence now in all our life, personal or business life. So we should update our rules depending on this technology, and without losing our traditional, our culture, our how to say, our visions as and our history also is very important. So it should be aligning with the updating of AI, but without losing anything from our heritage. It's very important because we have a deep and rich heritage also in Africa. So as a whole, as a result, I saw that the IP business need more research, maybe more how to say, we have more experience with other people in other countries who have already take steps or took steps in the past and have good result from the applying the intellectual property in the business and gain and have investment return in their GDP, and maybe they have more projects, maybe international projects or multinational projects, who can use their assets in this business. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Navana, for your, sorry, a minute. Thank you, Ms. Navana, for your presentation and your discourse in today's class. We really, really appreciate the thoughts that you shared, and we are happy to hear from you. We look forward to also hearing from you as we continue with the discussion subsequently over the course of the session. Moving forward, we would be taking presentations. Okay, moving forward, we'll be taking presentations from mentees. right? We have a few mentors who are yet to join on the call, right? So while we wait for them to do so, we'll be taking presentations from mentees, the group 1 and group 2 presenters. Please do well to share with us your slides so that we can follow you through as you run through your presentation. And then after that, we would have our mentors come back to give us some insight into the work you have done and just generally give us an overview and just help us run through your presentation also. So please, group 1 presenter, if you are with us, we would like for you to share your slides and then start your presentation. Presentation time, like I said, is 10 minutes. Let us do well to stick to time. Who do we have presenting for group 1?
Good evening.
Yes, good
Can you hear
evening. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so hello.
Sorry, your voice is breaking. Please, can you speak up?
Yes, I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay.
This is going to take a few- Hmm,
So that we don't waste time, try and start your presentation. I'll try and share your slides from my end. So just go ahead
Okay,
and just quickly introduce yourself while I try to put up your slides.
okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate.
Okay, you're welcome.
So, good evening once again. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to our mentors and my fellow mentees. I'd like to say a very big thank you to the organizers and facilitator at Jiipcc. I'm Abmilu Azizi, presenter for Group 1. So today I'd walk us through something that every business and creative individual must take seriously, and that is intellectual property, IP for short. So let's start simple. When we talk about patents, we're talking about protecting inventions. A patent is like a shield for your ideas. When you create something new, useful, and unique, the law gives you the sole right to produce and profit from it. That's saying without a patent, anyone can copy your innovation and reap the benefit. So let me picture this. So an example is Dyson bagless vacuum. That's the bagless vacuum cleaner. They had the vacuum cleaner patented, and Dyson became a global leader and earned billions from the vacuum cleaner. And in contrast to this, we have Chester Carlson, the man who invented xerography as the basis for photocopiers. For years, he struggled because he didn't secure a strong patent protection early enough for his for the xerography, and imitators took advantage before Xerox eventually stepped in and partnered with Carlson. Now, on the other hand, trademarks are not about inventions, but about the business identity. A trademark protects your brand, that's the names, logos, or the symbols that distinguish you from the crowd. Um, Take, for instance, Nike, who uses swoosh or just do it. Those marks are not just symbols, they are actually Nike's $1 billion asset. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, we have an example of a beverage company called Rumbo. They actually learned the hard way. They failed to register their trademark, and soon after, many copycat brands flooded the market with very similar products. And the result was that Rumbo actually lost both market share and consumer trust. The next slide, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. So why does it actually matter? Because IP protection is not just legal formality, it's actually for competitive advantage. It gives your business control, security, and credibility. The next slide, please. Next, please. Okay, I'll just go on. You can catch up. Beyond protection, IP can actually be monetized. I'm on IP licensing, please. One way is licensing. That means allowing others to use your IP in exchange for royalty or fees. Thank you very much. And the example we have here is Disney. Disney well, the Walt Disney Company get to fly around by themselves. They get to license those rights. And in 2023 alone, Disney earned over 5 billion just from licensing. And that's the power of putting your IP to work for you. So next on, we have you let others replicate your business model while keeping ownership of the brand. Take McDonald's, for instance. That's the classic example. There are thousands of outlets worldwide, yet the company controls its brand and operations while raking in over 13 billion in franchise revenue in a single year. So and in our digital world, there's also IP exports, like physical goods.
Okay, please, we
Software,
can
algorithms,
no.
or even can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear us? Your voice is here.
Okay, thank you. I'm on IP exports. So you can sell intellectual property like software or digital content. Look at Spotify, for example, a company from Sweden. It has exported its platform and algorithms to over 180 companies. Sorry, 180 countries. Yes. And Spotify generates more than 13 billion globally. And that's proof that IP isn't limited by geography. So basically, yes, let me give you all the takeaway. Intellectual property isn't an abstract law. It's practically giving your business power, whether or safeguarding your brand with trademarks and earning tons of revenue through licensing. The message is that they are all important because you protect your business and it actually gets to work for you. So I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. Well done to you and to the members of your group that puts that together. We'll be having feedbacks from the mentors to give a review to some of the things you shared while you were presenting. All right, so group one is done with their presentation. Please, can we have members of group two also share their slides and start their presentation?
All right, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I'll be sharing my screen now. I'm representing group two.
All right,
So,
thank you. You can.
yes, please. Just give me a minute, please. Maybe I should let me just share my screen directly instead. All right, I don't know if you can see my screen.
I can.
All right.
Yeah, you can.
All right, thank you very much. So my name is Uluwaga Ibunlua, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Group 2. And today I'll be speaking on intellectual property for business. Now, when we hear about intellectual property, sometimes it might sound very technical, but really, it's just if the idea is just about the legal rights that that we have that actually gets to protect our ideas, our creativities, our innovations. And just like our mentor said, the first mentor spoke earlier, I said there are some there are some things we cannot physically touch, and but actually they are very important to the business, and that is one of the center points for intellectual property. So I'm going to break it down into key areas. We look at copyright, we look at industrial designs, we look at IP management, IP valuation, we look at trade secrets, and I'm also going to use real life examples so that we can understand how it actually works in practice. So firstly, let's start with copyright. um, Copyright is very important to know that copyright protects creative works. Copyright is all about protection of creativity, the creativity such as books, films, music, artworks, whatever they are. Copyright is one of the legal rights, that actually gets to protect such kind of works. It gives you the right to decide who you want to copy your work, who you want to distribute who you want to actually distribute your work. So in other words, nobody can, because you've copyrighted your work, nobody can have easy access to just use your creativity for their own profit without you having to benefit from it. So let me put it in this way for better understanding. Just imagine you write a novel. Now, when you write a novel, the copyright is more like I would say probably a protective shield around the story, which means nobody can just copy it because it's protected. It's very easy to duplicate things, but when it's copyrighted, it's very difficult for you to duplicate that particular thing without having to face legal sanctions. So I'll look at two examples, two stories, that shows two case examples that shows a particular situation where should I say a company actually copyrighted their work, and in the other one they didn't actually get to copyright their work and they faced the consequence. So the first one is the Nollywood producers, during the 1990s, I believe back then, copyright laws were not really that very popular back then. And most film producers, when we go to get CDs, sometimes we purchase CDs as cheap as 100 naira or 200 naira during those times. So can we say the old movies where the actors get paid, um, they spend money on cameras, spend money on even the idea behind the movie itself eventually gets sold for just 100 naira. So that's piracy. That was what actually happened during for Nollywood producers who produced movies such as Tunde Kelani and other Nollywood actors, and they eventually lost a lot of money as a result of this. So I'll also talk about Chinua Achebe, who is the author of Things Fall Apart. Is very popular. He was able to enjoy the benefit of his copyright, and in fact, it actually sold over 20 million copies. Why, even though yes, the piracy actually existed locally, but it was able to earn royalties, internationally. He had contracts with different companies who get to pay him some certain percentage. So he was able to make a lot of money from even the book. Why? Because the work had actually had copyright on it already. So let's quickly move to the second one, which is industrial design. Now, industrial design, it's very important to note that industrial design does not deal with how the product actually works. It deals with how it looks. Like, for instance, its shape. An example is, let's say the shape of a Coca-Cola bottle, the curved shape, the rounded edges of an iPhone, the unique patterns on a design furniture, whatever there is, it's this is, you can put it under industrial design. You can get to protect your own ideas, what you create, what you make, not really how it works, like I said earlier. Now, in Nigeria, industrial designs are actually protected under the Industrial Designs Act, and globally under the TRIPS agreement, which is the agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. This also gives protection. Now, the question is, why actually should we bother to register our businesses? 4 reasons. First and foremost, to get legal protection against copycats. Yes, because it helps you to prevent people from actually getting to when they actually copy you. You still have a right, to recover it and even make them pay damages. Secondly, it gives you a strong brand identity. Thirdly, it helps you to protect your product in different territories, not just limited to a particular place. Then it helps you to even grow more revenue, to make more money, because customers will be loyal to you. Now, then I like I mentioned earlier, I'll give examples. One of the first examples is the Apple and Samsung case, where Apple actually designed one of its phones and it made it. There was a way it looked like, and Samsung now copied it, or let me say a similar design. Eventually, because Apple already had a right on their design already, they were able to win over 539 million naira, or million dollars rather, in damages. This is the power of registering a design. Now, on the other hand, we have Carlsberg breweries who failed to register the shape of their beer bottle. They had a competitor who copied it, and eventually they couldn't recover losses. Why? Because they hadn't taken the right steps. So the message is clear. If you create a unique design, you just have to protect it. You must quickly register it even before somebody else take advantage. So quickly we'll move to number 4, which is the IP management. Now, IP management actually deals with means you use intellectual property strategically. It's not just about protection alone. You turn these ideas, you turn them into assets, and these assets create money and value. That's all about IP management. Now, why is actually this IP management? Why is it important? Firstly, the reason why it's important is because it gives businesses, let me say, competitive advantage. It helps them to build their reputation. It encourages innovation, and in fact, it actually reduces legal risk in sense that the fact that it reduces your let me say people taking the matters to court, taking the particular, let's say having court issues even on this particular matter. Once it's secured, it's actually secured, and it can even produce more money for you. So we have a case study, which is the IBM, International Business Machine Corporation. Now, it's very important to know that IBM is one of the biggest technological companies in the world, and they own thousands of patents. Now, the thing is, instead of just keeping those patents for themselves, they decided to license them out, which is one of the things our first speaker spoke to us about licensing. When you license, you make more money from it. Now, it's not like they are stealing it. You're actually giving them the permission for monetary value. Now, they gave it to other companies they gave them permission to use their inventions, and in exchange, they got payment. Now, the strategy that actually earned this IBM billions of dollars this is the kind of strategy that actually earned them billions of dollars in revenue, which is a very good, so instead of just keeping it to yourself, you can actually use it to make money. So quickly, I'll move to IP evaluation. Yes, IP assessment and evaluation. Now, this is another key aspect. Now, it means that you is about putting a monetary value on your intellectual property. Now, for instance, you can value land, you can value buildings, you can value machines. You can also value trademarks in the same vein. You can value patents, you can value copyright. Now, the thing is about is that why does it really matter? First and foremost, the reason is because when companies merge together and they are together, they seek investors. Most times, for investors actually get to invest in them, they actually look at the value of their IP. It actually determines how attractive they will really be, or they are. For instance, we have the case of Manchester United. Manchester United trademarks, its logo, its name, its branding was actually valued for $1.89 billion in 2019. That's nearly $2 billion, just for the brand itself. That's a lot of money. So this actually shows that intellectual property can sometimes be more valuable than even its physical assets. So for Manchester United, like I said earlier, their brand and their trademarks was almost, it's even worth as much as a football club itself. So that was really huge. So quickly, let's move to trade secrets. Now, finally, this is the last point. A trade secret is, let me say, a valuable business information, that is often kept confidential. It gives the company an advantage. It's usually secret. It must be secret. It must have commercial value. It makes the business even it makes the business to make more reasonable efforts to actually get to protect it. Why? Because it's a secret. Now, the trade secret does not actually require any registration on its own, as long as the secrecy is maintained. Now, for example, I have a case study, which is Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola never patented its recipe, because if they actually did, they will have to publish it, and it would eventually expire even after 20 years. Instead, they kept it as a trade secret. Now, that was for, I think, they protected the secret for over 130 years now, and it has helped them to remain top even in the world. So that's even another kind of protection that can actually take place. Now, in 2024, Coca-Cola made $47.06 billion in revenue. This actually shows how valuable trade secrets can be. Now, to conclude, it's now obvious that intellectual property is not just law on its own, just law. It's actually a powerful business tool. Yes, a very powerful business tool. It's copyright protects creativity. Like I mentioned earlier, I said in the industrial design protects the appearance. I also mentioned that IP management makes your ideas profitable. And I said valuation shows the true business worth. And lastly, I mentioned that trade secrets helps you to safeguard, the unique advantages. Now, when businesses protect and, manage their IP, they grow, right? They make money, they stay competitive, But when it's neglected, like the Nollywood producers, that I mentioned, and Carlsberg that I mentioned, they make huge losses. So as I've said earlier, the lessons are clear. It's very important to protect your intellectual property and to let your ideas work for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Josephine, for your very, very wonderful and detailed presentation. Well done to you and to your team for putting it together. Um, well, rather unfortunately, we may not be able to have some of our mentors. We had a few of them asked to be excused from today's class because of one particular issue or the other. So, but still, yet while we are in class, seeing that we still have the presence of Mr. Max Ikombe and Miss Navana, we would want to hear from them. We want to go back to our mentors to give us just maybe any other things they would like to share with us in today's class and overall comments on the presentation. So we would firstly start with Mr. Max. You can stop sharing your screen. Yes, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yes.
All right, so
You hear me?
we'll start with and then back to
I will please. It's okay. Yeah. The other thing I'd like to talk about it, which related to the IP business. Yeah, you hear me? Yeah. It's the IP strategy. Yes. Most of our countries, they didn't count their intangible assets. They didn't know exactly the treasures they have since long time ago. Like I said before, concerning the traditional knowledge and traditional culture, the GI, how to say also, the medical herbs that we have, and I think more countries, more African countries have these treasures that we should have maybe from herbs, medical and medicines, which we sometimes import these products, medical products is very expensive payments. So why we don't make research, and we have researchers people, and we have scientific people who can support us in this and to discover these herbs. As I told you, we have a lot here in Egypt, and I think that all the African countries have these treasures, and I see this is real treasures, and it will sure it will increase GDP, sorry, of the country, and it will be a good investment instead of importing these products, especially that the health, how to say, the health field or the health environment need to be more improve, and we need to give more of the care, and putting in our strategy the health sector, which related to patents, to these herbs and plant varieties as an assets, as an IP assets. Yeah, this is very important point. The other point related to the IP business also, as we know all, the franchising and the licensing agreement and projects that should encourage SMEs, especially in Africa, which is very most of the business is SMEs. There is a big country companies, yeah, big projects with big enterprises, but the most of the business is related to SMEs and startup business companies. So these people should have support to have the awareness first of IP protection and IP registration systems like Madrid, like Lisbon, like PTC, and all of these systems related to the IP. If it's trade secret, there is no system. As I mentioned in the presentation, I like this comparison. And there is other comparison also in the copyright, yeah. But I'd like to add something related to the SMEs, which need to have more support, because it will have a lot of benefits, like in Brazil, in Argentina, in these countries which were developing countries and now they are developed. And also China, Korea, since more than 20 or 30 years, they are developing countries. So they give more attention and putting in the strategy to the supporting of SMEs, because they need more support, more education, IP education, awareness of IP protection, and support as money-wise. Yeah, it's very important, and technical also. Because when they grow, they make an advantage and benefits for the country as a whole, as you know. So in this section, they should give more attention how the protection of their trademark nationally and then internationally. So I know that some countries have some reduction in the international registration of trademark, like Madrid system, but others no. Maybe related to Aripo, yes, they have a special discount. But I think that the country also should give more support to these SMEs companies and startups. Patents also are expensive for people in Africa. So some universities and some technology transfer scientific institution give discounts to students to encourage them to protect their innovation, their creativity, and all of this. But I think they should give more discount to encourage not only students but normal people, others people, because patents are a little bit expensive, even locally and internationally. So the PCT. I know they have a big role to support them technically and to give them awareness about the patent protection, very important. But also they should have support in the section of money, of payment, of enlarging their project, to guide them how to have more benefits and to market their patent, even locally and internationally. And the marketing also is very important subject and topic in the intellectual property, because without marketing we cannot have more projects, more advertisement to be well known, even in our market, as locally point, and 100% international. But as we discussed, locally marketing in the intellectual property is very, very important, especially for trademarks and logos and brands, because we start locally, and then when we have good marketing and we have support from the government, or maybe from the big international companies or enterprises in the country, they can advertise for to open projects in worldwide, not only they're still in a locally market. Concerning the copyright is a very big topic which related to art, music, poetry, writing content and books and invent songs and I don't like to forget something, but it's a lot of things like make a picture. So there is a lot of art. It's very sensitive part of the intellectual property, and I like it very much. And I think that it will need to be more to give it more protection and more caring in the African countries because there is a lot of infringement. The more infringement is in the copyright. Even in our era, the copyright was infringed by the AI. So this is catastrophe. I mean, to be already infringed by people before since long time ago. We have a case in Egypt. There is a famous singer, Abdelhaim Hafiz, and very well-known name singer, and they have many songs all over the world, and he songs out of Egypt a lot, like tour in the world to provide his romantic songs, and his songs was infringed after his death. And his sons and his family tried to put it on the tribunal and go to a lawyer and making enforcement against this infringed people. But what we should give more, how to say, more attention, more important is the AI, because AI has passed all of this and very fast. There is many infringement from AI in the copyright, like in songs, in music, in even in books, writing. So it's very important. We should put, as I said before, all the rules, the updating our rules, our regulations, our procedures in our African countries to protect the copyright and the copywriter, the related rights also from AI. It's very, very important. They make many infringement in intellectual property, but the more section which is more infringed and need to have enforcement against AI is the copyright. I have a lot to say, but I think that I talk a lot, and other prof need to take the chance also. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Navana. If I were able to understand most of what you said, you discussed around the need for IP management and the need to copyright, the need for us to better improve the processes for SMEs and startup business. You know, she highlighted all of that in her comments and in some of the things that she wanted to add more. Right. So thank you so much, Ms. Navana, for your thoughts. We really, really do appreciate them. We'll be
Thank you.
handing over. We'll be handing over. Thank you, Ma. We'll be handing over to Mr. Max. Mr. Max Ikombe, please stay here with us. We also want to hear from you, share some of your extra thoughts and also comments on the presentations, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you again, Dennis, and thank you as well, Nirvana, for those very insightful thoughts. Let me also commend both groups for your presentations. I can imagine what the effort you have put into making that presentation, and I think both presentations were excellent. I loved the fact that both teams used very live and very relevant case studies to try to showcase the relationship between IP and business. And I particularly enjoyed the fact that you showed, good examples of use of IP and some of the times that businesses or individuals got it wrong with respect to protecting their IP and some of the fallout that comes from that. I really want to point out, and it's something you mentioned, which is to make it clear that, of course, IP is really broad. I mean, we have typically the four traditional types of intellectual property: copyright, trademark, patents, and designs. But we also have the what we call the non-traditional, and when we say they are non-traditional, we are not saying they are less important. Indeed, I believe it was Group 2 who made it clear that some of those other kinds of IP, like trade secrets, for instance, can even be bigger and a lot more important, depending on the particular business, than the regular or the traditional types of IP. So it's good to always note that when it comes to IP, it goes beyond just those four. So trade secrets, passing off, geographical indications. Unfortunately, Mr. Sand Mba is not here. He would have given you some more context about that. He's done a lot of work in that area. Then, of course, traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expressions, these are other forms of IP as well that the business ought to be careful about. One of the things I want to add is that sometimes also beyond IP acting as a positive for a business also needs to be aware of IP, because sometimes IP can also become a banana peel for that business. So beyond protecting, utilizing your own IP, why you need to have a proper IP management system in place in your business is also to ensure that your business does not violate IP that belongs to third parties. Just as much as you want to protect your own IP and you don't want people to utilize your IP without your permission, you also do not want your business to go ahead and spend a lot of money developing new products or services that would invariably infringe on other people's intellectual property. So that's part of the use of IP in business, that you have to do IP due diligence. That means you do a search. You are trying to name your business. You should do a search to confirm that name is not already used by another business. You want to develop new products or new services. You want to brand them. You need to also do a due diligence, part of what we call a freedom to operate search. You want to be sure that I'm free to use this name or this brand, and to be sure that nobody else has used that brand before your company. Same thing also with patents. Before you register your patent, you have to do a detailed search to confirm if there's any other patent or another invention that is similar to that. Then you want to ensure that you distinguish your own patent and show exactly what is unique about yours that the other product or the other invention does not already cover. So this is just to explain to us that beyond the positive uses of IP, there's also the negative uses. Now, there are even the more dangerous, I would say, so negative impacts that IP can have on you, and some of the IPs that are not the traditional IPs. So, for instance, when we talk about traditional knowledge, it means that maybe you are in the pharmaceutical industry, you have developed a new drug type using maybe a herb or a root that you learned about from a native community. Now you have to be careful, because in the places where the system works properly, a community can actually challenge your patent on the basis that your patent is essentially trying to monopolize a traditional knowledge that has been held in that community for a very long time and they have safeguarded over a long time. So you might need to enter into what we call a benefit sharing agreement with that community to say, look, fine, even if I patent this, I'll give X amount of all the benefits I derive from that patent to the community, since part of the knowledge that formed that patent actually comes from that community. Same thing also with traditional cultural expressions. So there's a popular American football team in the US called the Yankees. And at some point, the indigenous Indian American community had to force them to, change some of their trademark items, including particularly a logo that carried the headgear of a native Indian American chief. I think no, so it's not the Yankees. Sorry, I think it's the Chiefs. I can't remember the exact name of that club. But you can see how in choosing the logo of their trademark, they had unknowingly infringed on the traditional cultural expression of a Native American tribe. So there's a need to understand all of this in choosing your brand elements. That beyond just picking a brand that looks good, and also if you are going to use a brand that belongs already to an indigenous community, then you have to be careful because they might have the right to prevent you from, gaining the monopoly over that IP asset because they have communal interest in it. So I just wanted to add that. Then a little correction I wanted to make, I think it was group 2. I noticed that in your presentation, you mentioned that industrial designs is protected by Industrial Designs Act. You said CAP. I2, I think LFN 2024, but I want to correct that. That's not exactly accurate. Industrial designs is protected by the same law with patents. So it's called the Patents and Designs Act. It's CAP P2, Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004. But originally, Patent and Design Act was passed, I think, in 1970. So it's a 1970 law, but it's fused together, the law on patent and industrial designs. Trademark has the Trademarks Act standalone. Copyright, of course, has the new Copyright Act 2020, which is the most recent among them. Trademarks Act, I think, is from 1967. Patent and Design is from 1970. And then, of course, we are fortunate now that we have Copyright Act from 2022 regulating that sector. So, of course, part of what I also want to encourage you is that in addition to, being an IP professional, you should also be an IP advocate. So one of the advocacy we have had for a while now is we are trying to persuade that a new law be passed, the Industrial Property Commission Act, so that patent, designs, and trademark registry can be formed into an independent commission rather than remain a department in the government bureaucracy, in the Ministry of Trade and Investment. Just the way the Corporate Affairs Commission is an independent self-accounting commission, we are also pushing for a law to be passed to make the Industrial Property Commission an independent commission that regulates trademark, patents, and design. So that's one of the laws we are hoping will get passed soon, and it would really improve the environment of IP practice in Nigeria. So thank you, Dennis, and back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Max, for sharing your thoughts. You really shared some very detailed insights and thoughts into some very detailed thoughts and insight into the subject matter from today. Very, very practical knowledge, things that are very applicable within the business sphere, both from both mentors. And that is one thing I really, really want to say that our mentees are going to benefit over the course of the next 6 weeks from the classes you're going to be attending. It's not just going to be lecture based. It is going to be informative, and it's going to be from a professional standpoint of view, things that you can practically apply or know that you may not find within textbook knowledge or textbook practice, right? So thank you to Mr. Max and to Ms. Nirvana for such very detailed outlook into the topic for today, IP for business, and also well done to both teams that that put up their presentation and were able to run us through what they had in store for us. So we'll be moving on to our question and answer segments, right? If you have any questions that you would like to ask both our mentors that are on the call, once again, we apologize for the other mentors that were unable to join in because of one or two occurrence or incidents with them. We hope that they'll be able to join us in our subsequent sessions, and we also do look forward to hearing from them. But in today's class, our two mentors have done so well to run us through what we need, at least very, 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 very key and important things to note about IP within the business space. So please, if you have questions for our mentors, do well to ask, right? This is an opportunity for you to scratch their brains within that sense for you to try and see as much as possible to get further information from them. So if you have any question, we are taking questions. Do well to ask. All right, I can see Oyetoro. If sorry for not pronouncing your name very well, please you can go ahead, introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, good evening. We can hear you.
My name is Oyetoro Rafis. I want to say thank you to our mentors and Mr. Dennis and everyone that has presented. It has been such an insightful session. My question goes to one of our mentors mentioned that McDonald's, a business that is abroad, can actually sue if you decide to use their name here to start a business. My question is just that, is there territorial limits to IP? That is there any limit to the territory that it can actually apply? For example, owning a business or a design with a name in Nigeria doesn't mean that everywhere in the world, no other person can use such name. I just need clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Dennis, should I answer this or wait to take all the questions? I see.
No, so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thank you, Oyetor, for that. That's a very good question. So yes, the first point we need to note is that IP is territorial in nature. That means each country where your IP, you essentially get protection only in the country where your IP is registered. That is the general rule for intellectual property. So if you register a trademark in Nigeria, you are protected in Nigeria. It means if someone else uses that same trademark in Cameroon, you cannot go to Cameroon and sue them for infringement. So that's the general rule, of course. Of course, as you go along, you'll be introduced to the international IP system. So technically, there's no such thing as an international intellectual property. That means there's no international trademark or international patent. However, there are international systems that allow you register and protect your IP right in multiple countries at the same time or using the same registration process. So in the example we gave of McDonald's, for instance, you can use what we call the Madrid Convention, which is a system currently subscribed to by, I think, about 100 countries in the world, where you can register a trademark in one country and then using that Madrid system, which comprises the protocol and the convention, you can now get to designate and get a registration also done in multiple countries. Now, that is like an efficient way. Of course, you can do a less efficient way, which is to go to each country individually and register your trademark. That means you register your trademark in Nigeria, you also register it in Cameroon, register it in the US, register it in Japan, register it in Germany. But I mean, you can imagine if you do that for every country, how cumbersome and expensive it would be. So the Madrid system provides a simplified way where you can get more registration done in multiple countries. Now, there are also other systems, sometimes there are regional systems. So for instance, in Africa, we have 2 regional blocks, the OAP, which is a Francophone-based international organization for registration of intellectual property currently operative in about 17 or 18 mostly Francophone countries, where you can register a trademark and automatically you get protection in those 17 or I think 18 at the moment member countries. We also have the ARIPO system, which is a more Anglophone-based system, operates out of OAP operates out of Douala in Yaoundé, in Cameroon, and then ARIPO operates out of Harare in Zimbabwe and has also about 17 or I think 19 members currently. So you can also register a trademark through that system and then using a method not automatic. OAP is automatic, but ARIPO is not automatic. You can get protection potentially in 17 of those African countries. We also have the EU IPO, that's the European Union Patent Industrial Property Office, where you can also get registration done in multiple countries at once. So we have those kinds of systems. So that's another way to get your trademark or your IP registered in. So of course, for trademarks, we have the Madrid system. For patent, we have what we call the PCT, Patent Cooperation Treaty. It has over 100 and I think at the last count, over 135 countries that you can potentially get your patent registered in. Copyright is a little bit different. It's more complicated. in terms of how copyright applies internationally. But the basis for reciprocal recognition of copyright is based on the Berne Convention, which is a very old convention that regulates copyright protection. So it almost, in a sense, gives somewhat close to an international type of enjoyment to copyright across the world. So it means that if I write a book in Nigeria, automatically there's just a few formalities that need to be completed that will make sure that nobody can go and duplicate my book in the US or in another member country of the Berne Convention and begin to infringe on my copyright. So like I said, it's a little bit more complicated. I don't want to go too much into it. But then there's a last layer to your question, which is the precise answer to your question. Now, there's under the TRIPS agreement, that's trade-related aspects of intellectual property right. It's an international convention administered by the World Trade Organization. So it gives protection to what we call well-known or famous marks. So because of that, even if McDonald's has not registered their trademark in Nigeria, but you who are an entity not connected to McDonald's, and you choose to, for instance, try to register the McDonald's trademark in Nigeria, McDonald's would have a right to challenge you on the basis that they are a popular or a well-known international mark. The final decision on what is a well-known mark and how the level of protection it gets is kind of a country-by-country analysis. To a large extent, Nigeria follows the more conventional approach of saying if a mark is already internationally well known, which is which can be proven by facts to show how popular that mark is, then that mark gets some level of protection in Nigeria. However, whether that mark can automatically come and sue directly without a registration in Nigeria is another question entirely. So part of the protection they get in Nigeria is that they are allowed to do what we call a defensive registration. That means even though they are not yet in the Nigerian market, are not yet operating in the Nigerian market, they can actually register their mark in Nigeria, or at least they can prevent any third party from trying to register that trademark in Nigeria. So thank you again, Aitoro. It's a good question. It's quite complicated. And of course, as you go along the journey, you are going to treat other modules that would specifically address it, with more specificity. But I just wanted to give that broad overview that there's an international element to intellectual property, but that international element doesn't operate automatically. So it operates through certain prescribed routes that would make it happen. So I hope I was able to throw light on your question, Ettore. So Dennis, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
Yes,
Max.
you did, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Max, for to tackle that question. We have two people who are indicating with their hands raised. I think we'll start with Davina. Okay, I can see more people raising their hands. Davina, please, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So I want to say a very big thank you to both mentors, Mr. Mark and Mrs. Nirvana. My question goes to Mr. Mark. I want to ask if there is a particular year limit in which someone has to patent its invention or his creation. Is there a year limit?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Sedo, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's also another very good question. Now, IP rights also, the different types of IP rights have different types of validity in terms of duration. So let me just use this opportunity to give a quick overview of that. Now, with copyrights last, the protection that is offered lasts for the lifetime of the author, that's the creator of the work, and then 70 years after the author dies, when the work is authored by an individual. So that means, for instance, Chino Achebe died, I think, in 2012. So it means that for the next 70 years till 2082, you cannot pick things fall apart and make photocopies and start selling, because his copyright is still valid for the next 70 years after he passed on. After 70 years, that work falls into what we call the public domain. Anybody can take that work and use it. That is why the works of William Shakespeare, for instance, no longer have copyright protection. Anyone can do his own version of the complete works of Shakespeare without being held liable for violating copyright. Now, with trademarks, it's slightly different. Trademarks in Nigeria, at least, last in the first instance after you register for 7 years. That means it's valid for 7 years. Nobody can infringe. After 7 years, you can renew it for another 14 years. And then you can continue renewing it non-stop for blocks of 14 years. So you can see that copyright has an absolute limit. It lasts lifetime of the author for 70 years. But if it is done by a corporation, or if it's a type of copyright like broadcast right, it lasts for only 50 years from the date of creation. So that's a difference you should note. So that is why we typically, for instance, software developers, we advise them, when you create a new software code, do not ascribe the copyright to your company, because if you do that, you'd only get 50 years worth of protection. But if you ascribe it to yourself and your developers and you assign it to the company, then you can get the full lifetime of all the authors and then 70 years after. By doing that, you get a longer protection for copyright. For trademark, you can have a trademark last forever, provided you keep renewing it every 14 years, at least in Nigeria. Some other countries have 5 years, you can renew for 10 years, but Nigeria will do 7 years first and then 14 years non-stop thereafter. For patents, you have 20 years. The monopoly is for 20 years. In some countries, they have what they call patent term extension. So for patents, for instance, pharmaceuticals, where you need authorization of a drug authority before you can begin to put your drugs into the market, the time period you take to do that, to get authorization, can be added to extend your 20 years, maybe up to 22 or 23 years. But most countries, of course, have an absolute limit. You cannot go beyond. But then for designs also, designs last in the first instance for 5 years. You can renew them for another 2 consecutive terms of 5 years, and you get a total of 15 years. For patents, note that even though you have 20 years, each year you must pay what we call an annuity. You pay a renewal fee every year for that 20 years to keep it valid for the 20 years. But now to your specific question, Sedo, the difference between the different 4 IP types is that with copyright, you do not need registration to get protection. That means the moment you create a work of copyright, automatically it is protected. The moment you have fixed it in a medium, fixation simply means that if it's a song, you have recorded it. If it's a book, you have written it. The moment you fixate it, you have fixed it. That's what we call fixation in a medium. Automatically, you are protected. However, there's a voluntary deposit scheme run by the Nigerian Copyright Commission where you can deposit that work. That deposit scheme is not what makes your copyright valid. It is the creation, the act of creation and fixation that makes it valid and protected. However, the deposit scheme can help you prove your authorship of that work and the time you authored the work. So with copyright, registration is not necessary before you get protection. With trademark also, registration is not necessary. However, if you don't register your trademark, you cannot sue for trademark infringement. You can sue for passing off. So you can see that with copyright, registration is not mandatory. With trademark, it's not mandatory, but it is desirable if you want to enjoy the benefits of suing under the Trademarks Act. Now, with patent is where it becomes tricky, and this is what answers your question specifically, Sedo. With a patent, without registration, no protection. So registration is mandatory if you want to enjoy protection in patent. It therefore means that if you mistakenly or through design release your invention without registration, you lose the right to protect it forever. So it would mean therefore that the moment you have come up with an invention, you have done your testing and all that, you have to patent it immediately before you begin to mass produce it and put it into the market. Otherwise, you lose the right. Of course, why this is dangerous, particularly for startups, which I suspect a lot of you would advise as you grow in your career, is that startups particularly always need money. So when they have come up with an invention or with a patent, they try to use that to show to potential third parties to fund their business. But that is dangerous because if you do that, you will lose the right. So one of the ways to protect such an inventor is to ensure that whenever you communicate your patent or the ideas around your patent, you must ensure that the third party signs a non-disclosure agreement. There's also a limited exception where you demonstrate your patent in and for instance, in a trade fair, in a like a conference or a trade fair, then you have 6 months from when you do that to go and register. So you can see that with patents and of same thing also with designs, registration is mandatory, otherwise you lose protection. With trademark, it is not mandatory, but it's desirable. With copyright, it is not mandatory at all. You still get protected whether or not you do a registration. So, Sedo, I hope that answers your question. 6 months,
Yes,
if
okay.
you, yeah, exactly. You have to register your trademark. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Max, for helping us run through that question. And thank you, Sido, for that question. Who is tagged Team A? Who is named Team A? Please, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Abdulkarim Mubarak, and I appreciate the effort of all the presenters. So we really have learned a lot tonight from you. So my question goes to one of the provisions contained in Copyright Act. So particularly Section 28 of the Copyright Act. So 3 of that same section. So the section provides that, so notwithstanding subsection 1 and subject to any agreement between the parties, it says where a party for private and domestic purposes commissions the taking of a photograph or the painting or drawing of a portrait or the making of an audiovisual work, the person who commissioned the work shall be A, deemed to have a non-exclusive license to exploit the commissioned work for non-commercial purposes, and B, entitled to restrain the publication, exhibition, broadcasting, communication, distribution, and making available of copies of the work to the public. So my question is that, using the word when a person commissioned the taking of a photograph or painting or drawing, so does it mean that this commission, the interpretation of the commission is what I'm trying to understand here, that the commission, does it extend to the fact that the person making the commission must pay for the work before he can enjoy this right, or even without payment he can still enjoy the rights? So let's say, for instance, you meet with someone to do something for you, and then you did not pay for the service. So would that deny you the rights that have been listed under this section or not? That is, the payment, is it a condition required for you to enjoy this provision? So that's my question.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. That's also another very interesting question. And to appreciate and understand why that section 28 sub 3 was put into the new Copyright Act, you need to understand the historical context. Now, historically and by design, the way copyright works is that copyright ownership goes to the author, or you can call him the creator of a work. Now, certain works, like a portrait or a picture, you need to understand who is the creator, who is the author. Is it me who comes to the studio and sits down to be taking a picture of, or the photographer who does the taking of the picture? So you need to understand that in copyright terms, that picture is an artistic work, and the owner of the copyright in it is the creator, the photographer, not the subject, the person whose picture has been taken. So because of this, before now, the position of the law, and still the position of the law, subject to the exceptions made by this clause, means therefore that during your wedding, when you commission a photographer to come and cover the wedding, the pictures that he takes, the copyright in those pictures belong to him. So it therefore means that if you take that picture and now sell it to a modeling or an advert agency, and they use that picture to advertise maybe some new products, the photographer has the right to sue you for infringing on his copyright, for allowing exploitation of that work without his consent and without his permission. So you can see that there was some mischief there, that You therefore will not own copyrights to a work that you commissioned, that you're the one who paid the photographer money to take. This same thing also applies to websites. The person who designs your website owns the copyright to that website. And therefore means that if you take that website now and decide to turn it into a physical brochure and start distributing it maybe at a trade fair, he has a right to sue you for infringement of his copyright. So it is to avoid, so because of that, before now, the position of the law on the common law, which also applies in Nigeria, was that you have to show evidence that you commissioned that person and that the course of conduct between you and the photographer or the website designer was clear, that you commissioned him and paid him in return for an exchange of his copyright. Of course, the best way to avoid all of these arguments is that when you commission a person to do a work for you, you should have a written agreement that says that he transfers all his copyright in anything he creates from the, in that work to you in return for the money you are paying him for his services. So to your direct question, payment, the evidence of payment is necessary to trigger the provisions of Section 28.3. But what is best practice is to ensure that whenever you commission someone to do work for you, let there be a clear written agreement that transfers all his copyright or transmits or assigns all his copyright or other intellectual property developed in the course of that work to you. Because another dangerous place also, the graphic designer who designs your company logo owns the copyright to that logo, even though he designed the logo for you to use as a trademark. So can you see where two different IP rights now intersect? So the logo itself, the copyright belongs to him. The trademark belongs to your company. But it means therefore that if you change that logo or use it in a different context than what he gave to you, he has the right to say you have infringed on his copyright. So to avoid all of this argument and to even avoid, the Section 28, the best practice is to always ensure that when you engage a creative, you commission a creative to do any work for you, ensure that there's a written document that makes it clear that you have paid him and that payment is to transfer or to assign all his intellectual property rights in the work that is created over to you, the owner of the work, so that you are free to use that work the way you want to use without any limitation. If you notice, even Section 28 makes it clear that what is protected here is simply non-commercial use. It means that if you take that commissioned work and start making commercial use of it, you'll be infringing on the creator's copyright without a clear agreement that assigns or transfers his copyright to you. So I hope you get that clearly and why that provision is a welcome provision. But beyond that provision, there's still a necessity to ensure that there's always a clear document when you commission a creative. Thank you.
Thank you
Dean,
very
back
much.
to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Max, for helping us run through all the questions that has been run through you in the past almost for like 30 minutes now. We'll be taking one last question from the chat box before we call it a night, right? And the question is the question is from Azimat Issa. The question is, with the way AI gives answers from someone else's work without credit, sometimes if you do not ask for reference because AI basically just gets answers from different people's research, how then do the authors institute an action against AI? Who exactly are we going to hold responsible for copyright copyright work that is done by AI?
Okay, thank you. This is also another very interesting question. There's actually a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision on this question of whether use of copyright works, as a training data for AI systems constitutes violation or infringement of copyright. So in the U.S., what you need to, of course, understand about copyright is that copyright always has exceptions. So even if a person was guilty of copyright infringement, there are defenses. He can say, look, one of the exceptions. So, and there are many exceptions. There's what we call fair use. Fair use simply means that you have made a non-commercial use of that work in a certain that is excused. So one of it, of course, would be for educational purposes. So for instance, most of you use the slide for this presentation. The teams, team A and the team 1 and team 2 used slides, and some of those slides you took pictures from different websites. So even if those authors sued you, one of your defense can be that it's a fair use. You are using it, for educational purposes in the Jiipcc program. So that's one of it. In the US also, they have what they call transformative use, which means that if you take a copyright work but you transform it sufficiently, that means you have added your own creative content, your own creative expression to it. The new work that emerges becomes a new copyright work that does not infringe on the initial copyright work. That's because, of course, the whole idea is that intellectual property rights should not become instruments of creating monopoly where you stop other people from legitimately using knowledge for public good. So in the case of AI, the US Supreme Court decision was that the AI systems, that what the AI systems do, by using existing copyright work as training data is actually transformative use. Therefore, it's an exception to copyright law, and therefore it's not an infringement of copyright. But your specific question, Azimat, now the issue is most of those cases, you will sue the creator of the AI system, not the person who uses it. So if I use ChatGPT and ChatGPT goes to uses your own copyright work to give me a response, then you will not sue me, but you will sue the person who created ChatGPT, who now took your copyright work to create that data. So, like I said, if we follow through with the reasoning from the US Supreme Court, then I believe most of those cases would not succeed. But of course, you need to know that that decision by US Supreme Court is limited to the US. So in other countries, there could well be a different response that the owner of or the originator and operator of the AI system can be sued and be liable for copyright infringement. But that would depend on the specific law of the country concerned. But definitely, the person who used the AI system should not be held liable, but the creator of the AI system should be held liable. But again, these are questions that are subject to a lot of debate, and that is why we, around the world also, people are pushing for new laws to be made to make liability clear in the context of an AI. Who should be held liable when an AI system does something wrong, like a copyright infringement? Should it be the creator of the AI system? Should it be the user of the AI system? Or should it be the AI itself? In which case, it becomes difficult to get any redress, because even if you get a judgment against an AI, how do you now get assets to satisfy that judgment, except you have recourse either to the person who used the AI system or to the person who operated and created the AI system? So those are questions that are still left open, and it's part of what law reform should bring an answer to. Thank you, Azimat. I hope I answered your question. Okay, so I think, Azimat has a follow-up question. An observation, though, AI is not claiming credit for the work. So how can there be an infringement? So exactly, now this is another important point, Azimat, you have brought up. In certain jurisdictions, the question that they have asked is that since AI is not even an author, it's not a human person. So there's a popular case of the monkey selfie, where a monkey took a selfie, and the question was, can there be copyright in that work? And the decision of the courts were that no, that because the monkey is not a human person, is not a person in law, and therefore cannot be credited with the invention. So some of the arguments with this AI case also is that when an AI system creates a work, then that work cannot have copyright protection, because the AI system cannot be considered a person who can author a work. Because, like I mentioned earlier, an author can be a natural human person, or it can be a corporation, like a company, or a government agency can also be the creator. But the question is whether an AI system or an animal like a monkey can also be an author for copyright purposes. But the consensus seems to be that no, they cannot be authors. So that could be another argument, that the AI system not being an author can also not be held liable for copyright violation. But then those things are still subject to a lot of argument. They would need laws to actually bring more clarity to how they'll be treated. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, so second question, you said, okay, I think that second question isn't mine. Okay, I think I get that from Azimat as well. Okay, that's Azimat at DM is who asked the second question, and Azimat Isa asked the first question. So thank both of you for your very insightful questions. And I hope I've answered both your questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Max, for helping us run through all those questions. We really, really appreciate everything that you have shared in the last, within the last 2 hours, both you and Miss Navana. We really, really do appreciate, really, really do appreciate the effort and the time and the energy, and also the knowledge shared within the session. We'll be drawing a curtain on the session very soon. But just before we go, it is a practice of ours to take a screenshot of each session. So please, if you can, if you are in a place that is that has some kind of lighting, I would like to ask that you turn on your video so that we can take picture evidence for today's class, and we can call it a night. Thank you so much, Miss Navana. It's nice seeing you. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you, Chidima. Thank you, Baraka. Thank you, Azimat. All right. So we have started taking pictures while we wait for others to also join in. So just a minute, we will soon be done. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Max. It's nice seeing you.
Same here, Dennis. Well done.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nirvana.
All right. So I think we are done. We are done with that. Thank you so much, everyone, for being present in today's class. We are happy we're able to share very, very insightful, very, very detailed into the topic for today. I hope you all were able to learn a thing or two. The link to this class, the YouTube link to this class, we posted in your group, in your group, in the main group, so you can always have access to it. Do well to revisit it at your own convenience, at your own convenience time. Right. Do not forget to post what you have learned in class. Do not forget to fill your attendance, and also do not forget.
Can you kindly let me send the YouTube link of
All right, Ma.
Jiipcc? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Ma. We'll do that, Ma. So thank you everyone for being in today's
Excuse me,
session.
sir.
Is where is the attendance to fill?
Okay,
Excuse
the
me, sir.
attendance,
Please, how do we fill the attendance?
the link to the attendance will be sent to the group, so you will see it there. Immediately after class, I'll be sending it to you so you can fill it. All right, is that fine? All right. So good night, everyone, and please do enjoy the rest of your evening. See you next week, and enjoy the rest of your night.